An active storm track to continue through the rest of March, bringing winter weather and severe weather chances to the lower 48. Welcome in, everybody. Great to see you on this St. Patrick's Day. Hopefully we're all wearing some green. I know you can't see green on me right now, but trust me, I've got green socks on and I've got the green lights on behind us. So a good bit to talk about in today's video. Obviously just got over that major storm system a couple days ago. Unfortunately, that did produce more than 40 fatalities as multiple violent tornadoes touched down. We had multiple EF4s potentially. They're going to continue to survey damage. We might have hit an EF5. Again, they're going out and they're collecting all the data right now from the ground. But that storm definitely panned out the way we expected with an outbreak of severe weather. Now, the good news is with that is honestly as bad as it was, it really could have been worse given the setup. Saturday was a day that unfortunately did produce strong tornadoes. However, the number of tornadoes and the length of the tracks, I think, were a little bit lower and on the better side than it could have been. So we'll definitely take any good news we can get from that. But unfortunately now having to turn our eyes to the next storm system. Now, the kind of good news here is I think as we go ahead through the next week or two, it's going to be a little bit more snowy than the last storm was and maybe a little less heavy on the severe weather side. So that's the good news. And I'll tell you who could see some of that snow. In fact, watching some areas that haven't seen snow in at least a couple of weeks, running the chance for some snowfall with this pattern. Now, if you haven't already, go ahead, like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell for the latest notifications. We are getting so close to 40,000 subscribers. I think we're like 30 or 40 people away. So definitely, if you haven't already, go ahead, hit the subscribe button. And like I said, like the video and hit the bell for notifications as well. Also want to say thank you to our channel members. Appreciate you folks. And if you would like to become a channel member, you can hit the join button down below next to the subscribe button. All right, folks, let's go ahead and dive on into the data. And what you see next to me, this is the forecast from our European computer model showing the jet stream over about the next 10 days or so. And you can see multiple dips in the jet moving through the eastern half of the country, kind of coming wave after wave, very strong meridional flow, just meaning that it's a curvy jet instead of kind of a flat line jet. And the curvier the jet, the more active the weather is going to be. And that's, I think, something to note over the next couple of days. Now, if we go ahead and take a look at our satellite loop, you can already see we've got one dip in the jet over the eastern U.S. right now, kind of digging all the way down into Florida and up the eastern seaboard. That is what has brought the significant weather yesterday, and really even kind of the day before that as well, though arguably two different dips in the jet stream. But either way, this is kind of generally speaking what brought that active severe weather threat, now pushing further off the eastern seaboard, and with that, most of the active weather now pushed out to sea. A couple showers maybe left over into the coastal section of the Carolinas. I know we had some hail earlier in Wilmington and Myrtle Beach this afternoon, also possibly some active weather up into the northeast. But turn your attention out west, a new dip coming into California. You can see this area of spin right here just off the coast of Northern California. That's going to move into the Rockies over the next day or two and eventually eject out into the plains. And folks, we could be dealing with a pretty good little blizzard up here into the Midwest, up through portions of the Great Lakes and into Canada over the next couple of days. And we're going to break that down for you here in just a moment. Now, current alerts out there, we're already seeing some watches issued because of that winter weather potential. And I know you see a little bit of blue here. That is the winter storm watch for that next winter potential. It actually extends technically all the way up into Iowa. It's just covered up right now by some of these red flag warnings. And speaking of red flag warnings, yeah, I mean, basically the entire Great Plains from Texas all the way up into Iowa, Nebraska, even South Dakota, under those hot pink boxes. Same thing for Central Florida out here, including Orlando, for the fire danger risk. And that's another thing about the last storm. The tornadoes and all were bad. We had wildfires break out that took out homes. We had crazy wind into Texas, Oklahoma. We talked about that potential. Yeah, some of that wind and wildfire risk still kind of lingering into the start of this week. So definitely, unfortunately, just active weather continuing out there. Now, we do have some winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings into the Sierra Nevadas and into the Rockies, again, for that storm system knocking on the doorstep that's on the way here, and even a little bit of river flooding ongoing in the northeast from all of that rain that we saw over the weekend. So still a pretty active chart out there right now. And again, I think it's going to stay that way as we look ahead. Let's kind of time out what's coming on down the road here. So this is our energy map, our upper level vorticity map. Right at this evening, and you can see that big dip over the eastern U.S. now getting on the converging side of this trough, meaning the air is kind of running into each other above our heads, and that's leading to sinking motion and high pressure down at the surface. But over California, a different story, an area of spin developing out here, and everything out in front of it. This is that divergent zone of the trough we often talk about. It's going to lead to enough lift in the atmosphere or ascent from the surface. We're going to need some clouds to form and likely some snow to fall into the Rockies, and then intensifying again over the Great Plains. And you can see as I time it out here, I kind of watch the process on that. That moves into the Rockies, and then here we go. This is by Wednesday morning. You can see that stout area of vorticity or spin right over Nebraska and Kansas, and this is going to lead to a pocket of cooler air and enough lift for snowfall in that region as it pulls up into the Great Lakes. This is by Wednesday afternoon, and then up into Canada, and eventually kind of moves all the way through the east, kind of a secondary piece of energy. Could bring another shot of chillier air into the eastern U.S. By later this week, and we'll take a look at temperatures at the end of the video. Now, here's kind of the forecast. This is our winter storm impact index over the next 3 days, and you can see, a pocket of moderate to even major impacts, over Nebraska, Iowa, Kansas, and then up into portions of Wisconsin and the UP of Michigan. And I'll tell you, there's going to be blizzard potential with this one. We're going to have some pretty gusty winds and heavy snow kind of at the same time with this storm. Then you can obviously see winter weather impacts all the way back out into the Rockies and the Sierra Nevadas as well. Going to get plenty of March snow out of this. Heck, even the Denver metro area could see some snow from this event. Now, let's go ahead and time it out for you. What's this thing going to look like on the ground? Well, here is the latest run of the GFS, brand new off the chart. Let me back it up a little bit so we don't have any spoiler alerts, right? Again, kind of today and this evening, we are dealing with that rain still left over in the Northeast. Here's what radar looks like this afternoon, according to the GFS, and I think depicting it pretty well there. We've got some ongoing showers into New England, even a couple snow showers possible into portions of the mountains of Vermont and New Hampshire, kind of on the backside of that system. Now we have also another little kind of small, quick shortwave working on through the region into the northern half of the country through North Dakota and Minnesota this afternoon, International Falls, Duluth, and kind of areas up there. Could be seeing a little bit of snow, but the real story arrives right here. So this is tomorrow night. This is about 2 a.m. going into Wednesday. Strong surface low pressure. You can see about 985 millibars there, 984 to be exact. That's going to kick up the wind. That's why we've got the red flag warnings in advance of this thing. Again, where we're not seeing kind of the snow and the precip, strong winds and dry air kind of moving through this area once again. Now, not quite probably as intense as it was a couple days ago, but still a windy and just a fire hazard kind of mess out there. Now on the backside though, notice heavy snow beginning into Nebraska, back down into Denver, and then eventually as we go into Wednesday morning here, we'll move it ahead. This is 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central Time. This is a feisty snowstorm on going into central Nebraska, back down into portions of Kansas. Very heavy snow, strong winds, blizzard conditions, or at least blizzard-like through the area. And then throughout the day, Wednesday, cranking up, moving through the Midwest, heavy snow into Minneapolis, through the Twin Cities, northern Wisconsin, back in snow, could try to reach down even into the Kansas City area, would not surprise me. And this thing just keeps on cranking. Strong winds, heavy snow through northern Wisconsin, kind of the western half of the UP of Michigan, going to get some good snow out of this, back down through Iowa. This is Wednesday evening, pictured next to me. Keep it going, and then the storm kind of pulls up and the snowy side dies off a little bit. But by Thursday morning, check out a line of showers, maybe even a couple thunderstorms could be moving on through the Appalachia chain into the mid-Atlantic by Thursday afternoon, and then through the Northeast by overnight Thursday. And check out what the GFS tries to do here. Tries to develop another area of kind of sneaky low pressure with the storm along the I-95 by Thursday into Friday. This would enhance snowfall potential into the interior Northeast. We could get some northwest flow snow out of it, and once more could bring heavy rain and maybe a flooding threat into the I-95, New York City, back down into Philly, and then up the coast it tries to ride, even bring snow into the Hudson Valley. Heck, on the backside by Friday, maybe even some snowflakes into New York City. On the backside, not out of the question. Like I said earlier in the video, I think snowfall is going to be the bigger story over the next week or so compared to severe weather, and it's little setups like this that we'll need to watch. Now, this is the GFS, the European, not quite showing the same thing, but it's definitely something to note here. Would definitely bring an increase for snowfall potential into New England. Then you see another little small quick system behind that doesn't really look to do too much. At least that one. The one after that, though, could be a bigger deal. So speaking on snowfall, what are the chances we get some? Well, here's the GFS ensembles. Obviously, the biggest swath of snow here into Nebraska, Iowa, into the Twin Cities, northern Wisconsin and into the UP of Michigan, where we could see a foot of snow not out of the question in some of those regions. Again, that combined with the wind, blizzard conditions going to be very likely. Plenty of snow out into the Rockies, kind of the usual drill there. The higher the terrain, the more snowfall you're going to get. But look at this little area in the Northeast. GFS ensembles here showing the potential for maybe a couple inches of snow into the Hudson Valley, the Catskills, the Adirondacks, into the mountains of Vermont and New Hampshire. I think those areas pretty likely to get it. The question, though, can this dip as far south as northern Jersey, Long Island, portions of Connecticut, Massachusetts? That's something we'll watch for. And then back in northwest flow snow, looks pretty likely into West Virginia and down potentially as far south as the Smokies. Probably wouldn't be a very big deal, though. Now, what about the European ensembles? Yeah, pretty similar here on our blizzard out into the plains. We're talking heavy snowfall, strong winds, same thing for the Rockies, and even shows some of that northeast snow potential on the Euro ensembles, a little less robust and doesn't get quite as far south into Jersey, Pennsylvania, or kind of the New York City area, but still shows snow into the mountains of Maine, back towards the Adirondacks, Vermont, New Hampshire, and kind of all points in between. Now, that's the first storm system. What about kind of the next storm that I'm watching? So again, we'll kind of back it up here. Here's the storm. You can see it works through the east by Thursday and Friday. Behind it, another little quick shortwave piece of energy that could fire off a smaller storm by the weekend. Could produce a little bit of rainfall, maybe a small severe weather threat, but overall, I don't think that one's going to be too big of a deal. Although you do notice this very strong vortex just to the north. If that gets far enough south, could produce more active weather into the U.S., but right now looks like more of a Canada kind of event up there towards Quebec. Now, keep it going. This is the next piece I'm watching. This is by Sunday morning. You see this stout vortex moving through the northern plains. I think this one's going to pose a bit of a threat by next week, and watch how it develops. It gets quite strong. This is by next Monday, Tuesday, about a week from now. And yeah, a pretty good storm system could develop out of this one. I'm watching that potential. Kind of hangs around the east through the early half of next week, spins around for a while, almost gets cut off from the flow, and could bring active weather for much of next week. Now, when I say active weather, well, what exactly do I mean? Well, here's the latest European, brand new, just ran basically right before I'm recording this. For next or this coming weekend. This is Saturday evening. Here's a storm system associated with it at the surface, 998 millibar low, and then the other storm up into Canada. Notice a feisty one there as well, but far enough north it's not dipping down into the United States. Now, here comes the piece of energy. Gets going. Here's next Monday morning, folks. A week from now, we've got stout low pressure at the surface. We've got plenty of rain down into the southern half of the country, the southeastern half specifically, Kentucky, Tennessee, West Virginia, Virginia, down into the Carolinas and Georgia. But we've got snow on the northern end into portions of Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, back into Wisconsin, and watch this thing really spin up. Becomes quite the little Great Lake low pressure system here. We've got a pretty snowy scene into Michigan, portions of the Northeast. We've got rain along the I-95 and pretty heavy rain at that. Then tries to get some snow in places even like Boston into New England. And this storm just spins around for a while, brings another shot of chilly air by next week. Again, we had a very warm last week. Next week looks maybe a little chillier to start off the week with this storm system. And then bringing some of that snowfall possibility and maybe even a little bit of a severe weather threat. We'll talk about that as well. What about the GFS? Same time frame, same storm. Yeah, it's got it even stronger on the GFS. Gets snow into Chicago, back towards Des Moines, into southern Wisconsin, Michigan, into Minnesota. More of a severe weather threat on the GFS here. This is by Sunday evening down into the Ohio Valley, the Mississippi River Valley. And then keeps on cranking here into the northeast. We've got heavy snow into the interior. We've got rain along the I-95. Bit of a severe weather threat maybe into the mid-Atlantic by Monday, Tuesday of next week. Probably more like Monday it looks like here. And then the storm again kind of hangs around for a while. Then the GFS gets another area of low pressure. Tries to pull up the coast and almost get a bit of a nor'easter going by next Wednesday. So you kind of get the point here, an active track, an active pattern by the middle of next week. However, question marks in the forecast still, and that's going to be, I think, the big theme here is kind of figuring out those details. I will mention this. This is the latest from the Storm Prediction Center, and showing that potential for severe weather by next Monday and Sunday, kind of the Sunday-Monday timeframe back down south. This is where they're saying there's the highest chance right now at day 7. Honestly, I'll be honest, I'm surprised they went ahead and issued this. I think there's a lot of model disagreements still, so we'll see if this does kind of happen the way they're saying. But I definitely want to mention it to you that the experts out there in Norman think that there's a severe weather threat. by the end of this week and starting next week into this area highlighted on your map. Now, what about snowfall? Snowfall possibilities here. This is the chance of at least an inch of snow falling within a 24-hour time period, and this is for the next storm by next this coming weekend and the start of next week. Here's snowfall probabilities cranking up into the northern plains. Again, you can definitely see a snow signal, and then it really blossoms over kind of the Wisconsin and Michigan area. That's where you start cracking 50%. Anything within that blue shade, or obviously, higher down here at the key at the bottom, is going to be more than a 50-50 shot of seeing some snowfall. And then watch it get into the northeast. I mean, this is pretty impressive, and I'm looking at this for the first time with you. By next Tuesday, a really good chance of snow into the interior portions of New England, the Northeast. Could maybe even Boston get in on the fun, not out of the question. And then kind of moves up the coast there, and then some northwest flow snow and lake effect, if there is any lake effect left, if any of the lakes haven't frozen over all the way, that is, kind of hangs around there after the fact. So definitely kind of a bit of a snowy looking pattern comparatively speaking to last week. What about temperatures? I'll also be looking at this for the first time with you. Here we go, the European and its ensemble members, kind of a bit of a mixed bag this week. So we're going to start a little bit chillier in the east than we were this time last week. You probably felt it this morning. Only got to about 60 or so this afternoon in Charlotte, where I'm recording from. But I do think we get a bit of a rebound. So here we go. This is by Wednesday afternoon. Back to warmer temperatures in the east, cooler temperatures in the plains. This is as that next blizzard is cranking up, and obviously kind of a nation divided with the temperatures as the storm is kind of parked here, and you've got that strong flow out of the Gulf and then that strong flow behind it. Yeah, it's going to kind of it's depicted pretty well here in the temperature map. And then you go into the weekend, we get another shot of cold air, and I mean pretty cold by Thursday, Friday, back to more winter-like, pants, sweatshirt. I tried saying sweatshirt and sweater also at the same time when I said whatever I said there. But sweater, sweatshirt, whatever you want to call it there, potential is going to need to come back out of the closet here by Thursday and Friday, I guess was the point of all that. And then maybe another slight warm-up, but don't get too excited because, again, I think by next week, kind of a chillier air mass over the eastern U.S., but then warming up out west. So you could definitely see by about 10 days from now, cooler in the east. If I could write letters, that would help. And then kind of warmer out west with storm potential and maybe even snowfall potential kind of somewhere in that circled area on your map.